Hey Starlings! So, I am back using my DSLR. Hopefully it is repaired. I've been having so much trouble with it and the Canon app. So if anyone has any recommendations for good video quality cameras, photography, it's a hit and a miss, that is not Canon related, please let me know. I'm only ever used to Canon cameras. That's all I've ever used for professional videos. Please let me know. Now, on with the video. If you read the title of this video, today we will be discussing Alaska and how wheelchair accessible was my trip to Alaska. I went to Alaska in the summer of 2022. It was a ton of fun. I was able to go there through Princess Cruise Lines. I will talk about Princess Cruise Lines in a separate video just because there's a lot to cover there in terms of wheelchair accessibility and just how smooth everything was overall. But today we'll be talking about all of the land and port side things that we did. Okay, I went to Anchorage, Fairbanks, Juneau, Ketchikan. I really feel like I'm missing one. Denali, we stayed pretty much right outside of the Denali National Park, which was amazing and it was so much fun. I'm going to try and insert as many pictures and videos as I can, but if you just want to see the trip in its entirety, I actually did make a video. It's going to be somewhere here if I remember to do it, where I filmed basically everything that I'm going to be discussing today. I love Alaska. Let me just say, the last frontier, it is one of the best places to go if you love nature and all of the marvels that nature has to offer. It's gorgeous. We did not stay in, I want to say it was Anchorage, very long. We were only there maybe a day or so before we went. It was all like a traveling down, I want to say, to get to the port in Whittier. So we did not spend much time at Anchorage. I might have my cities confused now that I'm thinking about it. If you are a wheelchair user, I highly recommend booking your excursions, booking anything that you plan to do there through the cruise line if you are doing a cruise, especially if you're cruising with Princess. I highly recommend because they are so helpful when it comes to people that have medical equipment. All the buses were great with tie downs and knowing exactly which one and how long we were going to wait. I don't think we waited very long for anything when it came to having to accommodate for me and my family. We did a ferry boat ride through a river. It was phenomenal and it was a giant ferry type boat. I just think of the one from Maverick, if anyone's seen that film. It was just like that, and a river boat, essentially. A river ferry, whatever. So much free room and space. I got to roam essentially the whole main deck. There was not an elevator to take me up to the higher levels, but that was fine. I didn't have any need to because I could see everything at any angle I was on the boat. We spent time in Denali National Park, as I said, and what's really cool about the town we stayed in, it's essentially a resort town because it is in the middle of nowhere in the mountains, and when you go there it's just a strip of shops, a couple of restaurants, and then of course the couple of resorts dedicated, I think, for cruise lines. At least ours was, and oh my goodness, it was beautiful. If I was ever to visit Alaska again, I would love to stay at that exact same resort. It felt like a community and it was beautiful, and to my knowledge it was pretty wheelchair accessible. I had my bulkier travel chair, as you probably all know. I didn't have my new one, but I think it was, I don't remember having any outstanding complaints thinking back. I don't ever remember sitting down with Ruth and going, oh my goodness, you know? And the one hotel we stayed in at, I want to say it was Anchorage when we first got there. We only spent one night at that one, so we didn't have anything to really worry about. Everything had access for me. It was great. We got to tour the town, and I think just the worst parts were some of the wood planks were a little wobbly. But other than that, it was just pop a wheelie and you're fine. Nothing was to the point where I was hindered during my experience, and I have to really commend those who upkeep the resorts. We did tour the national park. It was an all-day thing on a bus, and it was great. I have no complaints there. I don't think I got out at any of the rest stops just because I have medical assistance that I don't particularly need to worry about making sure I get on and off, and then the struggle of having to get onto the bus lift and getting me up and down. And I don't like to take people out of their schedules, and I don't like making people wait for me. So if I can find a way around it, I'm going to find my way around it. But I had no issues there. I had a perfect seat. The tie downs were great for the bus. I was not hindered in the slightest for that trip, and I'm so thankful for that. There were some excursions that my family members did that I did not partake in. One was getting in a plane and flying around Mount Denali and getting super close to it. I didn't get to do that just because it's not that it wasn't wheelchair accessible. What was it? It had something to do with like the plane size and capacity or something like that. But Ruth did it and she said it was super, super cool. I'm gonna try and remember to get photos from her to showcase to you. It was really cool. They also did a couple of other excursions. It was when we were on the cruise ship though, such as the glacier tour. It was just a matter of being able to get me to a low enough deck to get onto the boat, and the boat was not close enough to safely get me onto it. So I didn't do that, but that's okay because I was up and close to the glacier anyway because we got pretty close with the ship. So I didn't have to worry about that. Most of the excursions I got to partake in with my family, and I wasn't expecting to be able to do so. So it was a nice surprise. It was a pleasant one. The next stop we had was Juneau. Now, a fun fact about Juneau, I believe, if it's the right city I'm thinking of, the only way to get in and out is by boat or plane, I believe. I could be entirely wrong, but that's at least what someone told me. I know it's in there. And we stopped there only for, I want to say, a day, not even a full day. We got to go into a gold mine that I believe they said was still functioning, and it was the coolest thing. I genuinely thought eventually when we got onto the ship they were going to tell us, oh, you can't walk at all, because you know there are a lot of ambulatory wheelchair users, that they would, you know, refund my stepdad and just say, sorry, we can do something else for you. No, I got to go into a gold mine and it was a real one, and you know, it felt like The Descent but not scary. I love nature, I love caves, I love the dark and spooky things, and I also love history. I love history, and I love history surrounding places such as gold mines, caves, and just all the cool aspects that would bore my mother to death. But, you know, I loved it, Ruth loved it, we got to see and learn how a gold mine functions, and then we got to pan for gold. I have mine, one second. Also, side note, I just hope I'm in focus because of this camera, it's really annoying me. But yeah, this is the AJ Mine and Mill Enterprises. It's so tiny, you can't even really, what if I just, like this, like an influencer? Ah! You can't even really see the gold flecks in the water, but I think it's so cool. I have like 2 flecks of little bits of gold in here, and I shall cherish it forever. It was a lot of fun. I am gonna backtrack a smidge because I totally forgot about Mount McKinley. We did leave Denali and we went to McKinley. This was right before we got onto the cruise ship. So all that stuff I just mentioned about Juneau was once we were on the ship and traveling. This was literally like 2 days before. Mount McKinley is another resort, and it is near Mount McKinley. While it was really, really pretty and it had all of the hotel rooms that you were staying in were all different cabins, just littered about this ginormous space. And it was beautiful, and it was in the middle of nowhere. There was not nearly enough to do, but I don't remember really having any problems because our cabin was a little on the hill, and then you go down the hill just a little bit, and then you are at the main lodge, essentially. There were fire pits. I think there were 2. One was a little further out, and there was a lot of gravel. There was some gravel at the main one, but it wasn't anything bad because there were seats that my family members could sit at right at the entrance, which was fine. It did rain a lot though while we were there, so we didn't really get to enjoy it. We enjoyed it for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then it started downpouring. Mount McKinley was fine. It had a very homey cabin lodge, like ski lodge feel, and it was sitting on a cliffside, so you just saw all the beautiful pine trees beneath you and stuff. Everything was wheelchair accessible. I would say it felt very bougie. And unfortunately, at that point, my parents had gotten sick. They came down with the big 19, and I can't say it because YouTube gets angry. It was literally was it the morning before we all had to pack up and go to the train? They got the call that they were not going to be allowed. And we were all really bummed about that because we made it through basically Anchorage and Denali just fine, and they had come down with it literally the day before. So that sucked, but the resort was nice. They were always really good about the bus situation. I would say the longest we waited was maybe 10 to 15 minutes just because things were running a little bit behind schedule, and I think maybe the little note about me being paralyzed was lost at one point, but they never abandoned us, I would say, at the resorts when we had excursions to go on. So they were really good about that, and they were really accommodating in that regard. So then we get to the train. There's this beautiful scenic train that takes you from a little outside of McKinley, and it takes you all the way down to Whittier where the ship is docked in the bay. That was beautiful. Oh my goodness. Let me tell you how I had to get on the thing though. So weirdly enough, I was the last person on, which I'm not sure how that works. Normally I think of it in airplane terms where I'm the first one on, last one off, but I don't know what happened. They were filling all the cars to the train, and I just remember being not the last one, but very close to the last one because there was someone else who used a wheelchair or a power scooter or something. So I get up there and I quickly see that it's very narrow. The walkway is very narrow. I could get up the little ramp, but then there's no way. But luckily they booked us to be right in that booth. We were right at the door. So Ruth was very helpful. We kind of had to shimmy some stuff. So if you are gonna go on that train, I don't remember the name of it, I would highly suggest you go with someone that can help you. I don't remember them ever even mentioning an aisle chair because I believe they would have told us, but maybe it was just because we were sitting so close to where I was going to be sitting anyway. But no one mentioned an aisle chair for me, and we just kind of had to do a really big swing around with my body to get me into the seat. But once we were in the seat, the ride was smooth as could be. Again, I can't say anything about bathroom situations. My chair was parked really close to me. I don't know how narrow or how to finagle that one because I didn't use it. So I can't say anything about that. But they gave us food, they gave us drink, and they gave us a lot of cool insight about the history of Alaska and the frontier and just how it became from a territory to a state. They gave us all the fun wildlife facts. We got to see some moose, we saw some bears, we saw some eagles, I think. And then we finally arrived at Whittier, and it was beautiful. I will stop my story. No, actually, I'm not going to stop my storytelling there. I will tell you about the last place that we visited. This was while we were on the ship, but we were on land. So we stopped at Ketchikan, and it was the last place we stopped before heading over to the Vancouver docks, essentially, the next day. Ketchikan, we got really lucky because they told us it basically rains 300 some days out of the year, and it was the sunniest, warm day you can imagine. And the only excursion we had was a historical tour of that city. And I wouldn't even really call it a city, I'd call it just a little fisherman's town. And after we had that, we got to then just tour on our own before going back to the ship. And we had a really, really tight deadline to be back on the ship because they were gonna floor it to Vancouver. We had, I would say, no problems getting across streets, getting onto sidewalks, getting off of sidewalks. I would say the worst part would be when you're at part of the dock. There's a lot of wood planks again, and it's just kind of bumpy, so if you can't handle a little bit of joltiness, I would say be very careful there. But it was not anything like a bad roller coaster. It was just mind your wheels. I think my wheel kind of got clipped on one of them, but Ruth was helping me out anyway, and it wasn't anything bad. So other than that, everything was paved really well. Everything had accessibility for me to get in and out of really well. Even places that had steps to get in, there were other ways around, even in old buildings, for me to get in and out. So they take a lot of care with these touristy spots. Now, once you get out of those touristy spots, I don't really know. And to wrap that up, we did stop at one other port. It's purely for the ships. It's, oh my goodness, what was it called? Icy Strait. It was not on the original itinerary. Something happened with another port, so we had to stop there instead. It's 100% a tourist trap. There's really nothing there. The locals don't live there. They just work there. It's really nothing special. But they had one of those, I want to say they're ski lifts, but they're not ski lifts. It takes you from one part of the peninsula to the other side because it's between, there's two little sections, but there's a bunch of trees in between and ruggedness. So I wanted to see the other side because there were cute little homes and there was a cat and the shopping stuff was on that side. Basically, there were bonfires and like fishing things on the side we docked at. But I was looking at them going, oh no, if it's a ski lift, I don't think I'll be able to get on with my big ass wheelchair. But they slowed it down for us. They slowed down one of the cars and it was so wide open for me just to roll on in. I felt so cool and it was the highlight of my Alaska trip. I'm kidding, but it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I will cover Princess Cruise Lines and how all of that worked out for me, from the stateroom to the elevator situations to getting on and off the ship. I will cover all of that in a video just because there'll be a lot to discuss there. So if you did enjoy this video, please give it a like and leave a little comment/review. Instagram has this quality of happiness thing going around and they judge it through an algorithm of your guys' interaction. So that actually does help me out. And if you do enjoy my content, I post basically whatever the heck I want to post. You can give me a follow and you can see what was on my mind this week. But with all that being said, I have more to say. I do have coupon codes in my description box. I also have all my other social media places if you'd like to come hang out and chat with me, or if you have any comments, questions, concerns, I have all of them down there for you. And with all of that finally being said, I will see you all later.